We'll get started in 2 minutes. In how many minutes? 2 minutes. How many? 2 minutes. Say salams and where you're from. We'll get started in 2 minutes. Facebook user says, wa alaikum assalam. Faziha, wa alaikum assalam. Shama, wa alaikum assalam. Seema, Bablu, wa alaikum assalam. Agazza and Abu Dhabi, wa alaikum assalam. Wahid in New Jersey, welcome assalam, Mr. Wahid. Zahra, Pakistan. Abdurrahman in Glasgow. Is it Glasgow? We got Chicago, Mari in Chicago, Salma Rani in New York, welcome. Naila in Sheffield, Hamna in India. Alhamdulillah, we're good. Adnan in Creepy Crawley. Is there really a place called that? That'd be really cool if you're from Creepy Crawley. Zeeb in Newcastle, alaikum assalam. Nabila, okay, we should get started. I started a little late today, but let me give like one more minute. 1 more minute and we'll start. 1 more minute and then we'll start. Junaina, third salam from Pakistan. Alaikum assalam. Alaikum assalam. Alaikum assalam. Nabila from California. Alaikum assalam. Somebody from Ohio. Into from Minnesota. Zahra in Aberdeen. Alaikum assalam. Firdausi, how are you and your family? Alhamdulillah, we're good. Let's get started. Take one. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa la amma ba'd. Welcome to today's episode of Taraweeh Truffles. Today is day 15 of Ramadan. SubhanAllah, we've hit the half mark. So our verse for today is the Surah Luqman, verse 22. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, وَمَنْ يُسْلِمْ وَجْهَهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَهُوَ مُحْسِنٌ فَقَدِ اسْتَمْسَكَ بِالْعُرْوَةِ الْوُثْقَى وَإِلَى اللَّهِ عَاقِبَةُ الْأُمُورِ. So this verse is a very dear verse. We were in class and there was a sister who was who's been through a very hard time. I won't go into the details of it. And her turning point after multiple, situations, her turning point, she said she opened the Quran and she found this verse and she started crying. And it was a very moving recount of what she's been through. And as an honor for what that sister said, I said, I will take this verse on and I would love to get to know more about this verse and how it changed so much for her and what we can learn from this verse, inshallah ta'ala. And indeed, it's a very beautiful verse. And you know why? I actually started a little late today. Usually I start 5 minutes early before the hour. I was daydreaming about this verse. I kind of just like, yeah, and this and this. And I kind of fell in love with this verse, and inshallah ta'ala, I'm about to share with you guys what I've learned so far. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَنْ يُسْلِمْ. So we'll just straight up translation first. وَمَنْ يُسْلِمْ وَجْهَهُ. And whoever. Men means and whoever. Yuslim wajhahu. Yuslim is like from Islam. Whoever submits, surrenders. Wajhahu ilallah. Whoever submits or surrenders their face to Allah. وَهُوَ مُحْسِن. While they are a doer of good. وَهُوَ, and that person is a doer of good. مُحْسِن. فَقَدْ اسْتَمْسَكَ. For verily they have grasped the most trustworthy handhold. فَقَدْ اسْتَمْسَكَ بِالْعُرْوَةِ الْوُثْقَى. Al-Urwat al-Wuthqa is a trustworthy handhold. وَإِلَى اللَّهِ, and to Allah, عَاقِبَةُ الْأُمُورِ, and to Allah will be the outcome of all matters. You know, when I do these Tarawih truffles and I look first, I start with the English translation and I say it and nobody knows what's going on, even though they know English, but you don't know really what's going on with the verse until you go to the tafsir and you hear the explanation. So first off, the beautiful thing from this verse, I'll give you kind of like my translation first. Whoever surrenders and submits themselves to Allah and doing so sincerely, they have held on to one of the strongest handholds that you could ever hold on to, and to Allah, all affairs turn back to Him. Okay? So first off is وَمَنْ يُسْلِمْ. The first part of وَمَنْ, and whoever. And I love that first beginning because as I've seen different stories from students and people, that one person is white, one person is black, one person is yellow, one person thinks they're beautiful, one person thinks they're ugly, one person thinks that they're old, one person thinks that they're young, one is male, one is female. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says it doesn't matter who you are. So all of those things mean nothing in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَنْ, and whoever, whatever you're coming with, وَمَنْ يُسْلِمْ وَجْهَهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ. Yuslim is to surrender. So we've talked about Islam means to submit, to surrender. And here I want to talk about the surrendering part. Surrender is when you've been fighting so much, you've been trying to find a different way, you've been trying to, just do lip service to the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just put on a mask, just cultural, just do the things that your culture or community does. But here we're talking that somebody finally submits and surrenders to Allah. You've tried to run away, and what has that done? Where are you now? And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and then you come back to Allah and you surrender. وَمَنْ يُسْلِمْ وَجْهَهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ. Wajhahu, it's translated here, is their face. And wajha is a direction. It's interesting, if I'm teaching a class, or I'm talking to you, and you start averting your gaze, to me that means you're not interested in what I'm saying anymore. So what that looks like is if I'm telling a story and you're like looking at me, and then all of a sudden you start like putting your eyes down towards your watch, or you start looking at the door, or you start looking somewhere else, I can tell that you're not interested anymore. Here you see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and whoever submits, surrenders their face and their direction, meaning that they're not distracted by anything and anyone except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That their complete attention, they're not trying to turn to the left, turn to the right, to try to find solutions. And it exemplifies that all their attention, all their focus is only on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is their number one priority. وَمَنْ يُسْلِمْ وَجْهَهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ. And here the word ilallah, towards Allah. And there's actually another verse that says lillah, for Allah, but here it says ilallah. And ila, if you've ever taken some basic Arabic classes, ila is a destination. It's a path that you take to arrive at a destination. So this person has surrendered, they've turned their face, and they're walking towards Allah, or they're turning towards Allah. Ilallah, and that means that this isn't just a motivational one time for the person. This person has turned their life and has changed their ways and made themselves right with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course, everybody commits sins, but this person is taking that path and they've turned and submitted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They've surrendered to Allah Azza wa Jalla, and they've taken that path back. They maybe they started praying now. Maybe they started they're fasting completely. They're not skipping any fast. They're paying their zakat. They're doing what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands. If there's something haram, finances or something, they're staying away from it. They have surrendered to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they've come towards Him, not being distracted by anything else. وَهُوَ مُحْسِن. And this وَهُوَ مُحْسِن is that ihsan is when you're doing something sincerely. And when somebody worships Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they're coming back, it has to be done sincerely and their heart is into it. Again, that it's not culture, that or they're not just putting on some fake mask on just because I'm a Muslim family and it's Ramadan and these are the things that we do. No, this is coming from the heart. They mean this. And they're worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as if they can see Allah, because even if they can't see Allah, indeed, Allah can see them, as the hadith says, what ihsan is. So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then says, whoever does this, this is their path. They've turned back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now it gets exciting here. فَقَدْ اسْتَمْسَكَ بِالْعُرْوَةِ الْوُثْقَى. That whoever does this things, whoever surrenders and faces and takes that path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and doing it sincerely, not culture, not lips, they're doing it, it's coming from the heart, and they've changed their ways and they're turned back. So their reward is, or what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَقَدْ, for indeed, اسْتَمْسَكَ بِالْعُرْوَةِ الْوُثْقَى. There's some powerful words there. Some powerful words. Adamantium, titanium. Al-Urwat al-Wuthqa. Al-Urwat al-Wuthqa. There's a lot of talk here about this right now. Urwa is the part of a material thing that you hold on to for handheld, for a grip. So, for example, in a teacup, I don't have a teacup here. I usually do. If there was a teacup, the handle of the teacup is the urwa. If you have a bottle, one of those jerkle things, and you have a place to hold your hand, that's the urwa. If you have a rope and you tie the rope into the knot so that you can grab onto it, that is the urwa. That's what you're holding onto. But there are things sometimes that a person holds onto. Let's take the example of a teacup handhold. A teacup handhold. And you will hold it, you hold it, and then one fateful day, the teacup handle breaks. Or, for example, somebody believed in something. Somebody believed instead of believing in Allah, they believed in science. Like Nuh alayhi salam's son, like we saw. And then one day it crumbles and it doesn't serve the person anymore. It doesn't help them in their darkest hour. Or somebody may believe in false prophets or cults. And then there comes a day where everything just crumbles around them, the foundation, or they believed in these things, and then things just start crumbling around them. But whoever turns back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and chooses to hold on to the path of Allah, فَقَدْ اسْتَمْسَكَ بِالْعُرْوَةِ الْوُثْقَى. Istamsaka, and I'll get to that in a second. I try to give you guys an example of something that is a firm hold, like for real, because obviously a teacup holder is not. And an analogy that that comes to my mind is that of a helicopter rescue mission. In a helicopter rescue mission, when a helicopter is going to pick maybe somebody's fallen off a cliff, or maybe somebody's in the dark sea and they need some rescue from a boat that's like sinking, and this helicopter comes as a powerful helicopter and it's sending down a rope. How tight is that rope? How tight is that rope? Now, if this rescue person comes down to save you, if you're in this deep, dark place, and then that rescue operator says to you, like actually, Urwat al-Wuthqa is also like somebody putting down their hand and saying, hold on to me, you'll be safe. So this rescuer tells the person who's in this dark place, hold on, you'll be safe. And you are wrapped around and protected with this urwa. And then the helicopter lifts you up from this dark place and takes you somewhere safe. And even if you were to, and we're not talking about literally hold on, but even if at some times your hands, or you fall asleep or this, if you're in that hold, there's nothing that's going to let you go and you're safe. It's interesting. And then another analogy that I give for this is if you've ever done rock climbing or wall climbing, or, these pole type of activities where you climb, and you're scared out of your mind. You're scared out of your mind. You're climbing this pole until you get to the top. I did this once. I was so scared, and I tried to get over it, and I'm climbing up these logs that get successively higher and higher and higher until you're like right at the top, and you're so scared. And as soon as you fall over, you feel the firm handhold of the apparatus that's holding you, the ropes and the knots that are holding you, feel it, and then peace sweeps over you because you realize you were safe this whole time. And that's what happens to a person when they turn their face to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that all this fear happens when you haven't experienced how safe it is to be held by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you get that hold, you get that protection from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you turn your face back to Allah, when you face your direction and you say, I'm not going to be distracted for a very long time, but now I submit. فَقَدْ اسْتَمْسَكَ بِالْعُرْوَةِ الْوُثْقَى. And there's another interesting part that I thought about in this verse, and that is the connection between hablullah, the rope of Allah. Because in another verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا, and hold firm to the rope of Allah and do not be divided. And what's beautiful about that, now this one is talking فَقَدْ اسْتَمْسَكَ, that indeed they've held onto and they're locked into al-urwat al-wuthqa, the handhold. You're safe, you let go. And here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this another verse is talking about hablullah, which is the religion of Islam. And it's a call for unity, for everybody, for all the believers to hold on to the same rope, which is a call for unity. وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا, that hold firmly, and that firm handhold that we're talking about is not just for the individual, but it's actually for the community, the whole community together. And I think beautiful example of that in the coronavirus, in the situation that we're in, we know that we can fight the coronavirus if we work together. And that's not just viruses, but so many things in life. When we're unified and we work together, that so many things can be solved. And here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us to hold firmly to the rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala together. And then finally, in the end of the verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِلَى اللَّهِ عَاقِبَةُ الْأُمُورِ, and to Allah all affairs will return back to Him. So when somebody is being abused or somebody's in an oppressive situation, and they think that there's nobody on their side, there's nobody that they can turn to, or maybe this person hurt them and then ran off or said things and they're not held accountable, all affairs come back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so because everything comes back to Allah, that we have to get our affairs right with Allah Azza wa Jal. We have to get our affairs right with Allah, because the cry of the oppressed is not going unheard. There's a day gonna come, there's a day that's gonna come in which it's going to the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And because it's all going back to Allah, this isn't just, let's suppose somebody's abused and then somebody saves them and says, don't worry, no one will hurt you anymore. But actually that abuser is somewhere out there and they possibly could hurt the person. But in this case, all affairs go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This person will not be hurt because the end result, all of this goes back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All affairs go back to Allah. And so that's why we have to turn back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is the disposer of all these affairs. Allahum ta'ala a'lam. I had a really enjoyable time reflecting on this for the sister and what she's been through, and for everybody who's going through hard times. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help you and help all of us, and may accept our dua in this month of Ramadan. Jazakallah khairan, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. If there are some questions, I'm happy to accept some questions. Who's got a question? Question says, when following the imam in a quiet prayer, am I meant to recite or stay quiet without moving my lips? Also, what if my recitation is slower, so I haven't fully read Al-Fatiha? Is it okay to go into Surah before fully reciting? So it depends on the madhab. From my understanding, if you're asking me, yes, you recite for your own. You recite for your own in a quiet prayer, and if the imam, if you don't have time to complete something, it's okay. Just follow along with the imam. Wallahu a'lam. Layla says, I've been struggling with trying to overcome social and emotional struggles for many years. I try making a dream dua, but I'm not sure it's concrete enough. Layla, we'll talk about the dream duas because this is going public, even though it might be in the group. We'll talk about Visionaire stuff in Visionaire, inshallah, inside the class, in one of the Q&A sessions. That goes for everybody that wants to ask a Visionaire question. Away says, it is said that dunya is temporary and testing phases of life, and one will be judged for his deeds on the day of judgment, rewarded or punished accordingly. That's why. And what is azab al-qabr? So azab al-qabr is azab al-qabr is, and actually it's not only azab al-qabr, but it's also, there's reward in the grave. The Prophet ﷺ said, in the grave, it's either a garden from the garden of paradise, or it's either a pit from the pits of hellfire. So the day of judgment, a person would lead to paradise or hellfire, or it may be, maybe somebody was, anyways, I won't get there. So yeah, punishment starts when a person dies in the grave. So, and I'd also add to what you're saying, Awais, that also reward starts in the grave if the person was a righteous person and they're ultimately going to paradise. Question says, can we make dua in our native language during salah? Yes, you can. Wallahu a'lam. Yes, you can. So if you're in sajda, for example, and you want to make dua in your native language, dua isn't restricted to people who only know Arabic. That you can make dua in your own native language, inshallah ta'ala. Every sheikh that I've asked that question of has told me that is the situation. You can make dua in your native language. Allah. My question is related to trauma and mental health. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that Quran is shifa for what is in the chest. So if a person suffering from post-trauma stress just wants to read Quran and Islamic material, what could be an argument in favor of therapy? So Asma, what comes to mind is there was a person who was arguing that the solution to everything was in the Quran. So he went to the scholar and he said, okay, where in the Quran does it say that I should, how to bake a loaf of bread? And the scholar said, it's in the Quran as well. And he said, yeah, show me. And then the scholar showed him the verse, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. And ask the people of knowledge if you do not know. Ask the people of knowledge if you do not know. And by the way, Asma, that, so that means, number one, if somebody was seeking therapy, it doesn't negate their belief in the Quran. In fact, it may be the Quran that leads them to take therapy, the Quran that takes to take those therapy. And for example, if somebody is in therapy, they might learn things like, for example, gratitude. And in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts off with Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. And there's verses where in ta'uddu ni'matullah, and if you count the blessings of Allah, you would never be able to count them. And so when you go to therapy or you start learning about therapy, you also see that there's verses there that can guide you and help you in these situations. Also in therapy, there might be like step number 1, believe in a higher power, which is, you don't need a therapy set. I'm not saying don't go to therapy. I'm just telling you that it's not necessarily negating what's in the Quran. Aisha, thank you for posting that question. I don't have a solution to you, but I just wanted to acknowledge your comment. If somebody has some advice for Sister Aisha, you can reply to her. I think it's on the main Facebook page. Sunjid says, is daydreaming bad? Like vision myself with that wishful situation. Wishful, I think there's a negative a negative connotation to the word wishful. But if somebody is daydreaming and then they turn that towards dua, or even having a nice pleasurable thought for the future and whatnot, there's nothing wrong with that. It's not bad. Nuran says, Sheikh, while making dua during sajda and salah, if one feels overwhelmed and cries their heart out, is it okay? Yeah, no problem. Allah. So Nancy says, if mom complaining about her kids are not praying or doing wrong stuff, does it mean she's not grateful or given gratitude? Oh, it doesn't mean that. If gratitude doesn't mean that if somebody's doing something wrong, correct something wrong, then change it with your. So if a mother is of her children, if they're doing bad things, that has nothing to do with being thankful to Allah or not. In fact, it may be that she's fulfilling, the amana that Allah put on her to raise her children. Sadia says, since all affairs will be judged by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is it wrong or improper to request justice in this dunya or actively pursue vindication, excluding serious matters, of course? So Sadia, the concept of, eye for an eye, if somebody has been wronged, they have a right to request justly what was taken from them. So there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously, forgiveness is great if they can forgive, and you'll see a lot in Islamic law and so on, that there's this encouragement to forgive, which is actually interesting. There's a TED Talk on this topic about how in American law, there's a lot of there's not vindication, but there's a lot of let's sue this person. There's lots of ways. There's very little channeling towards people forgiving each other in American law. And they said that if you look in the religions around the world, and here we're talking about Islam, you will see again and again that there's this encouragement to forgive. Now, to your question, Sadia, what if somebody doesn't want to forgive? Are they allowed to not forgive? And the answer is yes, they're allowed to not forgive. And they can request what they want, what was taken from them. So if somebody had $1,000 stolen from them, and they're like, you know what, I'm not going to forgive. And even if this person's broke, I still want my money back, then maybe that person will go to jail until they're able to come up with the money, or they are punished. So it's not a problem. The main thing is a person doesn't transgress beyond the eye for eye. So someone doesn't say, oh, you killed my brother, so I'm going to kill your whole family. Which is, it should be like soul for a soul, not like, and they used to do that in the Arab tribes before. If somebody killed somebody from one tribe, killed from the other tribe, then they'll say, hey, we're going to war with the entire tribe and we're going to kill everybody. Even though one person was killed, they'll be like, let's kill everybody. And that's not justice. I will answer for the questions related to visionaire and dua and stuff like that. I'll take that in class, inshallah ta'ala. So For the students of Visionaire, we will do that at our open question and answer session. I don't know. All right, we're done. Inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Half an hour. We are finished. Subhanakallahumma bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.